Okay, for almost every trig course in high school and college, you have to fill out a unit circle. And usually it's completely blank. It doesn't have any of this stuff on here. So I'm going to show you a way that you can do it without memorizing everything, but maybe a couple of things. Okay, so if you're looking at this first quadrant over here, let's notice this right here. This right here is at 0 degrees, and if you go all the way around, you're back to 360. Or if it's in radians, 0 pi, go all the way around. Well, 2 pi is the same as 12 pi over 6, as 8 pi over 4, and as 6 pi over 3. All right? So, and 4 pi halves. And its coordinate points, see we're over here at 1 and at a height of 0. So its coordinate points right there is 1, 0. So at each axis, you're either going to have a positive 1, negative 1, and a 0, or 0, positive 1, negative 1. So let's stay on the same axes and go over here. Halfway around the circle, we go 180 degrees. That's pi. Well, pi is the same as 6 pi 6. 4 pi over 4, 3 pi over 3, 2 pi over 2. And I'm writing this for a reason. And if you were to write that, it would actually help you to fill out the test. And we're here at negative 1. So its coordinate points, negative 1, 0. So that's the x-axis. Let's look at the y-axis. So the y-axis, that's a 90-degree angle. So from 0 pi, or from 0 degrees, a right angle is 90 degrees, or pi halves. Okay? And then if we count 90 degrees again, another right angle, we're at 180. And 180 plus 90, we're going to be down here at 270. Well, if this is 1 pi over 2, up here, if this is 1 pi over 2, if we go another 90 degrees, that's 2 pi over 2. Then we go another 90 degrees, that will be 3 pi over 2. So 270 degrees is 3 pi over 2. And then when we go all the way around the circle, we're back to 4 pi over 2. So the reason I'm telling you all this, because now and its coordinate points, well, now we're on the y-axis, so the x value is 0, the y value is at a height of 1. And then down at 270, we went down, so that's a negative 1. The y-axis, the x is 0, the y value is negative 1. So now we have our 4 axes, coordinate points. Okay, and when we did this 30-degree angle is 1 pi over 6. So let's count it. If this is 0 pi over 6, 30 degrees is 1 pi over 6, or you can just leave it pi 6. And remember, this length was root 3 over 2. This height was 1/2. So our x value is root 3 over 2. Our y value, I'm going to put square root 1 over 2. Now look at the pattern. At pi fourths, root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. At pi thirds, 1/2, I'll just put root 1 over 2, root 3 over 2. Now look at, if we start in the x's, root 3, root 2, root 1, and then we shift, root 3, root 2, root 1. And notice they all have a fraction of 2, so you don't even have to remember that. Every one of these side angles are over 2. The only thing you really have to memorize is that the x's at a 30 degree is root 3 over 2. The y is root 1. And once you know this, then just count for the y's, count up. Root 1, root 2, root 3. For the x's, count down. Root 3, root 2, root 1. So we come over here and we start. Our x value is root 3 over 2, but in this quadrant it's negative. So we start with the x's, we count down. So negative root 2 over 2, negative root 1 over 2. And then for the y's, we count up. Root 1 over 2, root 2 over 2, root 3 over 2. It's just a counting game. And then down here, root 3 over 2, root 1 over 2. So for the x's, we count down. And for the y's, we count up. Come over here. The x's, the y's. So for the x's, we count down. And for the y's, we count up. Okay, now when you're naming how many degrees, if you can remember that the 30 degrees away is 30, this is 45, this is 60, and the part that you have to remember is with 30, well, you don't really have to remember. You could come over here and do 30 times pi over 180, and with whether you do it manually or your calculator, you'll get pi over 6. So 1 is 1 away from 0. So if we come over here, if at pi it's 6 pi over 6, subtract 1 because we're going backwards, we get 5 pi over 6. Add 1 and we get 7 pi over 6. And then back here to 12 pi over 6, and we go all the way around, is 2 pi, subtract 1, we get 11 pi over 6. And that is all of the radians. Now when we do the 30 degree angle, this is 30 plus 0. We come over here at 180, subtract 30, and we get 150. Add 30, 30 plus 180 is 210. Then we come all the way around and we get 360, but we're going backwards. 360, subtract 30 degrees. All we're doing is adding and subtracting and counting patterns. Now here we've got a 45 degree angle. So 0 plus 45 is 45, so we come over here to 180. And if we subtract 45, we get 135 degrees. If we add 45 to 180, we get 225 degrees. And I didn't do the radians yet. So at pi fourths, 0 plus 1 is 1 pi fourths. So if we come over here, this is 4 over 4. Subtract 1 gives us 3 over 4, 3 pi over 4. And if we add 1, we have 5 over 4. In the last quadrant, all the way around is 8. Well, we're going that way, so we subtract 1, so that gives us 7 pi over 4ths. All right, so now we're going to do the 60. So 0 plus 60 is 60. If you didn't remember, 60 times pi over 180. 60 goes into 61, 60 goes into 180. So this is pi thirds. So 0 plus 1 is 1. So we come over here and we have 3 pi thirds. Subtract 1 gives us 2 pi thirds. Add 1 in this direction. 3 pi thirds plus 1 is 4 pi thirds. And then if we come over here, all the way around is 6 pi thirds. Since we're going that way, we're going to subtract 1. That gives us 5 pi thirds. So the trick would be, well, and then with the angles, 180 subtract 60 gives us 120 degrees. 180 plus 60 gives us 240 degrees. And then if we go all the way around at 360, subtract 60 gives us 300 degrees. So it's a lot of just adding and subtracting, 30, 45, or 60. The trick is, if at the beginning of the test you label 1 pi as 6 over 6, 4 over 4, 3 over 3, 2 over 2, and then just keep subtracting 1 and adding 1. And then over here, if you write 2 pi as 12 over 6, 8 over 4, 6 over 3, 4 over 2, and then from here, you would subtract 1 from each of those, and that will give you the fourth quadrant. The third quadrant, you have to add and subtract 1. I'm trying to think of what else is helpful to know. If I ask you to name the quadrants, you have to name them in Roman numerals, and you do it counterclockwise. So you start here and you go in the counterclockwise. So first quadrant, second quadrant, and then we already have labeled, so you might want to label this at the beginning so it reminds you which value gets the negative sign. The third quadrant, they both get a negative. So hopefully that will remind you to not forget the signs. Anyway, so hopefully this pattern helps. You have to remember a couple things, but if you can remember a couple of those things, then it's just about the pattern and or adding and subtracting. I hope this helps.